Over the course of the summer, I have also reached out to a few lawyers to understand what legal processes are available for victims of harassment. There are two pathways victims can take. There's the criminal process and there's the civil process. In the criminal process, the ideal outcome would be the perpetrator ending up in jail. In the civil process, the ideal outcome would be you are suing the perpetrator for monetary compensation. This video serves to help victims of harassment know how to enter these legal processes and what the process will entail to some extent. The experiences of people have with cyber harassment vary drastically. It's not all the same. The evidence is always a little bit different. So the first thing that I can say is if you want to pursue legal pathways, talk to a lawyer. So first, I'm going to talk about the criminal pathway. The criminal pathway is what we normally think when something bad happens to us. We see something bad has happened, we call the police. So if you're sitting on your computer and there are horrible threats against you, or you're afraid, or they're stalking, any of these types of behavior that make you afraid and you think something wrong illegal is happening, contact the police. This is going to the precinct, calling them, saying, this is happening, I don't know what to do. Contacting the police is how you enter the criminal process. Now, you can pursue a civil case at the same time you're pursuing a criminal case, and in that instance, it might be better to first talk to your civil attorney before talking to the police to decide how you want to take action. What happens in the criminal process is you go to the police then start an investigation into the perpetrator to see if the person who did it does, because this is the United States and people are assumed innocent until proven guilty. And then once the police have a substantial case, they'll pass that case over to the district, state, different levels of the federal or a governmental attorney. Because in a criminal process, it is not the victim versus the perpetrator. In the named case, it is U.S. government versus the perpetrator. So this is what I was talking about in the retaliation video of the community is seeking justice because this person has done a wrong. One thing to consider when pursuing a criminal case is that you are not part of the investigation. You're a witness to this crime because you were the victim. So you're not necessarily going to have this power to determine how it will be handled. The police may not understand what the technology is, and they might not fully understand what has happened and how this cyber harassment is a crime. You can, request to speak to another officer. If it's cyber crimes, might be a great resource. Speaking to somebody in cyber crimes may be a great resource, or somebody in the sex crimes unit, because if it's non-consensual porn. These people may have a better understanding of what's going on. It also may be a good idea to bring with you a friend, a family member, maybe your civil attorney, or if the harassment is happening within an abusive relationship, a victim advocate, to help speak for you and speak to the police in terms of what this harassment is. So as a victim or a target, you don't have to explain over and over again what happened to you. You can have somebody else do that for you. If you are being harassed online, the social media accounts, these emails, or however the harassment is happening, becomes a crime scene. So as like you see in CSI, preserve the crime scene, don't let anything happen to it. If you want to pursue legal pathways, your online accounts become crime scenes, and that's where the evidence is. So you need to preserve the evidence. There is a chance if you report the comments to Twitter or Facebook or things of that nature as abusive or harmful, and the social media sites takes it down, you may no longer have access to that evidence. So it is important to preserve evidence if you want to pursue a legal case. So this means taking screenshots are very important because it kind of gives a little bit of context, but also keeping the links and the URLs alive. So copy paste a link. One of the great things I heard at NNEDV's Tech Summit was create a log. So make sure you have this log of when the harassment was and how maybe the live links and how that happens. It will help in a prosecutorial process for you to say, If you do not stop, I am going to the police. This draws a line in the sand that shows that you're not antagonizing or participating in it. To enter the civil process, you would call a civil attorney. There's a list also on the End Revenge Porn site that lists the different attorneys who know these types of crimes. So if you want to so it'd be helpful to contact somebody who understands this type of crime and where they are in your state. The civil attorneys would work with a victim of harassment to understand what would be the best pathway to pursue. So whether this is suing the perpetrator for money, suing another entity related to the case, or something completely different. If you're pursuing a civil case, though, you need that evidence. So taking screenshots, keeping the links alive. This will allow the civil attorney to serve subpoenas and gather evidence for your case. Despite that we say the internet lasts forever, or anything online lasts forever, there is certain evidence that will be deleted. So for example, IP addresses are very helpful identifiers in pursuing cybercrime cases, ranging from like hacking to cyber harassment to non-consensual porn, any type of cybercrime. So those are identifiers, and there are times that certain sites that delete that data. There's a time-sensitive aspect to pursuing a cyber harassment case. If you go sooner rather than later, the civil lawyer or the prosecutor will have time to gather that evidence and ensure that it's not deleted, so it can be used as evidence in a court case. The most important takeaway from this video is simply, if you are being harassed online and you think this behavior is illegal and you want to pursue legal pathways, call either the police if you want to pursue a criminal pathway, or a civil attorney if you're interested in representation in a civil court case. Regardless, there are pathways for you to get help. The lawyers I talk to know what they're doing. There are lawyers out there who know how to help you. There are advocates who can help you. Reach out to them. There are different sites and links that I can put in the description.